Chapter 143. His death was too fast. Maybe even in the end Qiu Heng didn't know how he died. However, this had nothing to do with Yi Chun. He was only responsible for killing people. With a great sword hanging on his waist and an iron spear in his hand, Yi Chun lightly touched the ground and flew up to the top of a tree like a wisp of smoke. Then he flashed and disappeared. Squeak! Once Yi Chun left, countless bugs crawled out of the swamp and devoured Qiu Heng's body and head. Not even his bones were left. Not only was there a massacre happening in the swamp where Yi Chun was, but there were also massacres happening in other places. In the middle of a mountain range. The smell of blood was everywhere. Run! It's one bloodless blade. Wuxia. What? It's Wuxia. We're dead. We're all dead. Outside the simple and magnificent cave, 6 to 7 sect disciples were wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves as they flew out. Some of them were even using incomplete cultivation methods just to increase their speed a little. There were also some people who were carrying explosive pellets with them to save their lives and threw them behind them. Since you're already here, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Wuxia, who was wearing a blood-red robe with golden edges, walked out of the cave. He laughed evilly, holding the blood-red thin blade in his hand. He swung it sideways. There was no obvious blade light or blade chi, only an arc-shaped line of blood. Silently, the heads of those people who were running away were cut off. There was no blood coming out of the wounds. It was as if the heads were sealed inside their bodies by an invisible force. It was extremely strange. One bloodless blade killing people without spilling blood. This was the power of the head disciple of the Evil Blood Martial School, the 54th ranked disciple of the last hidden dragon rank. At the same time in another place, beside the lake, Yuan Henging glanced at the people who wanted to run but didn't dare to, and said cruelly, apart from the Sky Eagle Castle's disciples, anyone who runs into me, Yuan Henging, has only one choice. Death. Hearing this, these people's faces turned pale. They had found a fish dragon plant that was worth 70,000 gold by the side of the lake. When they were fighting against each other, they had actually attracted the attention of the most bloodthirsty Yuan Henging. Yuan Henging was known as the Killer Eagle. He had never left anyone alive. In terms of notoriety, he was even more notorious than Wuxia. At least, Wuxia killed for the sake of killing. As long as they didn't provoke him, they would have a high chance of surviving. However, Yuan Henging was unpredictable. He would kill people when he was in a good mood. He would kill people when he was in a bad mood. He would kill people when he was in a good mood. Even if he was in a good mood, he would still kill people when he was in a good mood. Clearly, the current Killer Eagle was normal, which meant that he could kill people. However, I've changed my mind. I'll give you the time of 3 breaths. Whoever can escape from my attack will be spared. Yuan Henging really liked this kind of atmosphere. He was in control of other people's life and death. If he wanted them to live, he would live. If he wanted them to die, he would die. He had done this many times before. 3 breaths, escape from my attack. Everyone's eyes brightened. Most of them were at the peak of the lake condensing reality realm. It was not a problem for them to fly 100 meters in 1 breath. Some of the faster ones could even reach 200 meters. If they ran as fast as they could in 3 breaths, they might be able to survive from Yuan Henging. What? Why are you still not running? Maybe I will change my mind soon. Yuan Henging licked his lips. A hideous look flashed through his eyes. Run! Under the pressure of death, everyone pushed their zhanqi to its limit. They flew out at a speed that was way faster than before, scattering in all directions. Within 1 breath, the slowest person was already 100 meters away. Within 2 breaths, the slowest person was already 250 meters away. Within 3 breaths, the fastest person was already 1 mile away. Eagle soul splitting. Yuan Henging yelled. He put both of his hands in front of his chest and pushed them out. Shoo! 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 The dark cyan zhanqi condensed into numerous huge zhanqi eagles. With Yuan Henging as the starting point, they spread out in all directions like lightning. Ah! A scream was heard. The slowest martial disciple's head was ripped apart by the claws of a huge zhanqi eagle. His body slid out for 10 meters and he was no longer breathing. Then the second martial disciple, the third, the fourth, only 1 person was left, and he had already run for almost 1,000 meters. Not bad, you managed to run that far. But it is not that easy to escape from one attack. Eagle combination, eagle sky attack. All of the Zhanqi eagles combined into one, forming a super huge eagle. The super huge eagle flapped its wings, and 2 dark cyan chi blades flew out. Right then, that martial disciple seemed to feel death approaching. He took out a dark red iron bomb from his pocket. It was called the red light fire bomb, which was as famous as the silver light thunderbolt bomb. It could kill a peak-level early clasping Yuan realm warrior. But of course, he did not dare to attack Yuan Hengying. Instead, he threw the bomb towards the chi blades behind him, and yelled, "Explode!" Boom! A bright red light exploded, and the 2 chi blades were shattered immediately. I dodged one attack. His face was filled with excitement, and his mind and body suddenly relaxed. Swoosh! All of a sudden another chi blade flew out and cut off his head. This martial disciple died with his eyes wide open. Yuan Hengying lightly landed in front of the martial disciple, and said casually, "I told you, anyone who runs into me, Yuan Hengying, can only die. I will not make an exception. 3 breaths was just a joke, don't take it seriously." Waving his hand, 3 red light firebombs flew out of the martial disciple's pocket and landed in Yuan Hengying's hand. He sneered and flashed out. The swamp area was extremely dangerous, and sometimes it was not a good thing to be too fast. Just now, Yichun had suffered a great loss, and had to slow down his speed to about 60 to 70%, saving some energy for himself. Piercing through a demonic bird that had sneakily attacked from the sky, Yichun stood on top of a huge tree. Looking into the distance, there was nothing in front of him and nothing in front of him. Is this the end? Yichun frowned. Without any hesitation, he moved his body forward, and moved as light as a swallow. This place was a dark cliff, and inside the cliff was a swamp area. Outside the cliff there was nothing but nothingness, as if it was blocked by a great barrier that no one could see through. Thinking about what the leader Luo Xinglia had said before, the Heavenly Dream ancient region was extremely mysterious, and that the entrance of the treasury could be in the mountains under the water, or even just by jumping down. Yichun hesitated for a second, then jumped down from the cliff. He had learned the crane shadow steps art, which allowed him to fly for a long distance. If anything happened, he could come back anytime he wanted. But if he didn't try, there was no other way to go, and the only way left was to turn back, which would undoubtedly waste a lot of time and energy. In the Heavenly Dream ancient region, time was money. After falling for about 500 meters, Yichun felt that the bottom of the cliff was still immeasurably deep. Clouds were rolling in the air, and he suddenly wanted to go back. But right at this moment, the space underneath vibrated intensely, and formed into a 10 meters wide whirlpool, sucking Yichun in. Pop! Yichun let out a sigh of relief as his feet landed on the ground. Just like what the leader had said, the entrance of the treasury was everywhere. It all depended on whether you had the guts or not. If he didn't jump down just now, he would have lost a great opportunity. Letting out a deep breath, Yichun finally had the mood to observe the surroundings. Looking around, he found that his surroundings were very dark. He was in a stone corridor. On the walls on both sides of the corridor, there was a small protruding stone platform every 100 meters. In the center of the small stone platform, there were candles as thick as a child's arm. The faint light from the candles flickered brightly and dimly. Thanks to the sword intent, Yichun wasn't scared by the dark environment. He started walking deeper into the corridor. After walking for a few 100 meters, a side road appeared on the right side of the corridor, and he could vaguely hear people talking. Looks like I'm not the only one here. Yichun thought for a while, then quietly walked into the side road. At the end of the side road there was a luxurious ancient hall. The crystal lamp on the ceiling of the hall never went out, emitting a soft and bright light, which brought a sense of security to the dark environment. Yichun looked down. There were 3 doors on the side of the hall, and each door was carved with different things. Right now a group of disciples were fighting each other, trying to get into the hall first. My head disciple is Xue Hen, ranked 57th in the Hidden Dragon rank. Anyone who offends us, the Invisible Martial School, will die. Get the hell out of here. I am a disciple of the White Deer Cave, and my head disciple is Lu Zhao. The rest of you get out of here. In the Heavenly Dream ancient region, life and death are all up to fate. If I kill you, who will know who killed you? Don't be stupid, die. Sounds of chi explosions came one after another. Even the crystal lamp on the ceiling of the hall started shaking, as if it was going to fall off at any second. Yi-chan was planning to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight, but he suddenly heard footsteps coming from behind him. They were not far away from here. If it was a normal martial disciple, he wouldn't care, he could just kill them. But this person's footsteps seemed to contain some kind of magical power. Each step seemed to contain a mountain-like power, but it gave off an oppressive feeling as if a storm was coming. Early clasping Yuan Realm Warrior. With this thought flashing across his mind, Yi-chan stepped out of the side road and came into the hall. Shoo! The fight paused for a second, and everyone's attention was on Yi-chan. Seeing the cloud patterns on Yi-chan's sleeves, a lot of people grinned viciously. Windy Nation's Sky Cloud Martial School, a disciple from a rank 9 martial institution, how dare he come here? He really doesn't know how to spell the word, death. I have never killed a disciple from the Sky Cloud Martial School, but I have killed a disciple from the North Snow Martial Academy. It was so easy, I wonder how these people train themselves. Let's kill him first. That's right. These people had been fighting for a long time but couldn't find a winner in a short time. Seeing Yi-chan show up, they immediately walked towards him with evil intentions, as if they were looking at a dead man. Yi-chan sneered, a bunch of reckless people. If it weren't for the fact that there was someone in the side road, I would have killed them already. Now I should just wait and see. Die. Before these people could attack first, a huge Zhan-Chi fist suddenly swooshed out from the side road. The Zhan-Chi fist was extremely condensed. It was as huge as a mountain, piercing through the entire hall at an amazing speed. Bang, 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 bang. Almost half of the people were killed by the power of the fist. Their bodies were sent flying in the air. The Zhan-Chi fist's power didn't fade away. It even broke a thick pillar in the hall. Chapter 144. Such a strong fist power. Yi-chan raised his eyebrows. All of the people in the hall were either at the child level, but they couldn't even take a single punch, and half of them were either killed or wounded. Ah! A hidden dragon ranking martial artist is here. His fist power is as strong as a mountain. He is Lin Yu, rank 70th in the hidden dragon ranking. Run! Every 10 years, more than 60% of the disciples in the Heavenly Dream Ancient region were killed by hidden dragon ranking martial artists, and only a small part of them died in the hunt of ancient demonic beasts. In the eyes of these disciples, every hidden dragon ranking martial artist was a killer. They had to run as fast as they could, otherwise they would definitely die. No one knew who took the lead, but all of the surviving disciples fled in all directions. Soon only Yi-chan and 7 or 8 corpses were left in the hall. Tap tap, the sound of footsteps grew clearer and clearer. A sturdy figure slowly appeared in Yi-chan's sight. He was over 2 meters tall, and as sturdy as a mountain. He was Lin Yu, the head disciple of the Dragon Tiger Martial School, a rank 7 institution in the Elephant Mountain country, and was ranked 70th in the last hidden dragon ranking. Lin Yu glanced at the corpses on the ground, then turned to Yi-chan and said with a slight surprise, "Why didn't you run?" In his eyes, Yi-chan was only a late condensing reality realm martial artist. He hadn't even reached the peak of the late condensing reality realm. Although those who could enter the Heavenly Dream Ancient region were all outstanding martial artists from their institutions, they were still not strong enough. With his early clasping Yuan realm cultivation, who would care about a late condensing reality realm martial artist? Yi-chan gave a faint smile and said, "I'm also interested in the treasures in there, why should I run?" "Oh, it seems like you're quite confident. But too bad, those who are not powerful enough and overconfident usually die early. They will never be able to make a name for themselves." Lin Yu held his hands behind his back. He didn't take Yi-chan seriously at all. He wasn't afraid that Yi-chan would launch a sneak attack on him. "Why don't you try?" Yi-chan knew that no matter how much he said, he had to prove himself with his own power. Otherwise, Lin Yu would only treat him as a pushover. A strange look flashed across Lin Yu's eyes. Yi-chan clearly knew that Lin Yu was a martial artist ranked in the hidden dragon ranking, but he was still so confident. Lin Yu couldn't understand where Yi-chan got his confidence from. Did he really think that he could fight against Lin Yu? The latter possibility was very small. How could the other party's sect let a hot-headed person enter? Wasn't that sending him to his death? Thinking of this, Lin Yu laughed out loud. Good, you've got guts. If you can take a punch from me, Lin Yu will never embarrass you again. One punch. I'll take it. Yi Chen didn't intend to fight head-on with the other party, because he wasn't confident that he could kill the other party. Of course, the other party wouldn't be able to kill him either. Clang! As soon as the hidden cloud sword was unsheathed, Yi Chen's aura changed. An astonishing sharpness gathered, condensed, sublimated and transformed. His whole body was like a divine sword that was about to be unsheathed, piercing through the void. What a sharp sword aura. No, there seems to be a hint of sword intent. Could it be that this person has already comprehended sword intent? Lin Yu didn't really believe that Yi Chen had already comprehended sword intent. He thought that it was some kind of change brought about by the special sword art he had been practicing. Therefore, he let out a great shout and launched a punch. Break. The mountain-heavy punch hadn't even hit the ground yet, but the ground had already cracked and collapsed. The surrounding walls let out a series of creaking noises, and then broke into pieces. This punch was powerful enough to kill an ordinary early clasping Yuan realm martial artist, and break a 100-meter-tall hill. Yi Chen's hair and clothes fluttered in the air, as if he would be blown away and shattered by the punch at any moment. His eyes were sharp, and he launched the hidden cloud sword. Puff! A thin sword mark appeared in the air, extending straight towards the punch. At that moment, all the crystal lamps in the hall seemed to have lost their colors, and the only thing left in the hall was that sword mark. Pop! Pop! The sound of the explosion resounded for hundreds of times, and the frequency of the explosion was so high that it could even penetrate people's eardrums. After that, the two of them were both sent flying backwards. Sword intent. It's really the sword intent. Lin Yu steadied his body, and his face was filled with amazement. While he was still flying backwards, Yi Chen had already skillfully sheathed his sword, lightly landed on the ground, raised his head and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Lin Yu responded, "I'm a man of my word, I won't embarrass you anymore. But don't think that you can do whatever you want with only the sword intent." In the last Hidden Dragon ranking competition, there were a few disciples who had comprehended the sword intent, but none of them were invincible. Of course I know that. Yi Chen wasn't stupid enough to think that the sword intent was everything, and that he could easily kill Lin Yu. There were 3,000 great Das, and the sword intent was only one of them, and the sword intent was only a sublimation of the sword art. It didn't mean that Yi Chen was qualified to look down upon the whole world. After all those powerful martial artists were extremely powerful, and none of them could surpass their own cultivation levels. Patter, patter, patter. Yi Chen and Lin Yu didn't intend to continue the fight. Just when they were about to open 2 of the 3 doors, they heard faint footsteps coming from the other side of the door. The footsteps were very rhythmic from the beginning to the end, and then to the beginning again the same time, as if the footsteps were both intentional and natural. If one had to describe it with one word, it would be copy. Indeed, only copy could perfectly explain the rhythm of the footsteps. Although they hadn't seen the person yet, both Yi Chen and Lin Yu's expressions changed. This guy is very powerful, and his footsteps seem familiar. Lin Yu knitted his eyebrows, trying his best to recall. In the next moment, Lin Yu exclaimed in a low voice, "It's the young master devil, Yin Wuqing." The young master devil, Yin Wuqing. Soon information about Yin Wuqing emerged in Yi Chen's mind. Yin Wuqing was the head disciple of the Sky Serpent Nation's Rank 7 institution, the Brute Devil Martial School, ranked 45th in the last Hidden Dragon ranking. Among the 13 Hidden Dragon ranked martial artists from the 9 nations, he was one of the 2 who hadn't reached the Clasping Yuan realm yet. I thought this guy hasn't reached the Clasping Yuan realm yet? Yi Chen had been wondering about this for a long time. Luo Hanshan had told him that the top 50 of the Hidden Dragon ranking were all Clasping Yuan realm martial artists, but how did Yin Wuqing manage to get into the top 50? Lin Yu asked confusedly, "Haven't you heard about the young master devil, Yin Wuqing? Even early Clasping Yuan realm martial artists are afraid of him. Even the Bloodless Blade, Wuxia and the Killing Eagle wouldn't dare to confront him face to face." Yi Chen shook his head. He had just reached the Clasping Yuan realm not long ago, so he didn't know much about the outside world. Perhaps the 4 young masters of the Windy Nation would know more about him. The Brute Devil Martial School is the same as the Evil Blood Martial School. They're both evil martial institutions. Their disciples practice evil martial arts, and the martial art that Yin Wuqing practices is even more special. It's called the Earth Devil Body Refining Art. It focuses on the cultivation of the body, making the body as tough as iron, impervious to all kinds of weapons, and impervious to fire and water. Apart from this, the progress of the martial artist who practices this martial art will be very slow. But with every step, the martial artist's power will rise at an incredible speed. With this Earth Devil Body Refining Art, Yin Wuqing managed to defeat a few early clasping Yuan realm martial artists in the Hidden Dragon ranking, and won the 45th place. Although we've all reached the clasping Yuan realm now, no one dares to underestimate him. Yichun asked, "May I know the rank of this Earth Devil Body Refining Art?" Lin Yu responded, "I heard it's a mid-rank Earth Realm martial art." A mid-rank Earth Realm martial art? No wonder, it's even a rank higher than my pure Jade Body Boosting spell. It seems that the martial art that our leader Luo Xinglia practices is only a mid-rank Earth Realm martial art. Yichun thought. The footsteps stopped, and a young man's silhouette appeared in their line of sight. The young man was neither too tall nor too short. He was tall and slim, and even looked a bit scrawny. However, in Yichun and Lin Yu's eyes, this young man gave off a strong feeling that he was invincible, as if he himself was a weapon. "Lin Yu, are you trying to stop me?" The young man coldly stared at Lin Yu. Lin Yu laughed out loud and responded, "How could I dare to stop the young Master Devil? There are 3 doors here, let's each take one." "What? Is he qualified?" Yin Wuqing's eyes fell on Yichun. Lin Yu shook his head. "Don't underestimate him. He has already attained the sword intent. Just now he and I exchanged a move and it ended in a draw." "Ah, he's qualified then." Yin Wuqing was a bit surprised. People who had attained the sword intent were all powerful, and he had already seen it during the Hidden Dragon rank competition. Therefore, he would not underestimate him. "Let's mind our own business. Otherwise, Lin Yu would never be afraid of anyone." While speaking, Lin Yu walked towards the middle door. The young Master Devil walked towards the right door. Yichun didn't care which door he chose, because before he opened it, no one would know what was inside. On the other side, Lin Yu slightly raised his voice. In front of the door, an invisible screen was blocking his way, preventing him from opening it. "Break." Lin Yu threw out a punch, and a strong fist power condensed into a solid shape, striking on the invisible screen. Buzz! The screen didn't break but ripples spread out. Lin Yu didn't believe it. He boosted up all of his Zhen Qi and threw out 3 punches in a row. Bang bang bang. The invisible screen vibrated intensely, twisting and showing signs of breaking. After that, Lin Yu threw out the 4th punch and shattered the screen. On the other side, the young Master Devil sneered. He reached out his smooth, jade-like palm and clenched his fist. He didn't release even a little bit of Zhen Qi, but directly punched on the invisible screen. Pop! A large part of the invisible screen was dented. Before it bounced back, it was punched for the 2nd time, then the 3rd time. Before the 4th punch was launched, Yin Wuqing grabbed the dented part of the screen with both of his hands and tore it apart. Bang! The invisible screen was torn apart by Yin Wuqing. Even Yichun was shocked by his great strength, and silently thought that he couldn't compete with Yin Wuqing at all. When the 2 of them walked into the door, Yichun pulled out the hidden cloud sword and hit the same spot 3 times in a row. Puff! The invisible screen was punctured and disappeared. Carrying the iron spear on his back and holding the sword in his right hand, Yichun opened the door and walked in. There was nothing in the room except for a black coffin, which was placed in the middle of the room. Is this a tomb? Yichun had a bad feeling because the coffin gave him a weird feeling, as if there was something horrible in it. Ah! At this moment, a raging roar came from Lin Yu's room, followed by an earth-shaking sound of fighting, which even shook the entire room and hall. Creak! The thick lid of the coffin suddenly moved a little bit to the side, showing a crack. From the crack, 2 beams of green light darted out like ghosts. Chapter 145. Yichun frowned inwardly. These 2 beams of green light gave him an evil feeling, full of evil and cruelty. Plus, they also carried a numbing power that made his hands and feet feel weak. But He was a martial artist who had learned the sword intent after all, which made him invincible. He snorted and cut off the connection with the green light. Crack! The lid of the coffin suddenly flew up, and a human figure stood up from inside. Cut! Yi-chan reacted quickly and threw out a sword attack. Clang! Sparks splashed out, but this sharp sword attack failed to cut open the body of the man. Oh! The human figure let out a wolf howl as he bounced on his knees, jumping towards Yi-chan at lightning speed. His two arms pulled back and released, stabbing out like two sharp blades. The room was very dark, and there was no light source. With his powerful soul power, Yi-chan could still see the face and body shape of the man. He was shocked when he saw the man's face. It was not a man at all, but a black-colored zombie. The zombie's shriveled body was scrunched up, shining with a metallic luster. Its green eyes had lost all human emotions, only cruelty, strangeness, bloodthirstiness, cruelty, and all the evil things in the world could be seen in those eyes. The zombie's movement was a bit stiff, but its explosive speed was quite fast. Yi-chan leaned to the side and moved 10 meters away. In the next moment, the hard wall was punctured and torn apart. The zombie tilted its head and locked its evil green eyes on Yi-chan. Of course, Yi-chan did not show any mercy. He waved the hidden cloud sword and two sharp sword chi shot out, one from the left and one from the right, aiming at the zombie's eyes. Since he had comprehended the sword intent, his attacking speed and power had been greatly improved, and he was no weaker than an early clasping Yuan realm warrior. It was able to react in an extremely short period of time. Its shriveled head tilted back slightly, dodging the sword chi on the left. As for the other sword chi, it missed its eyes due to the target's movement and struck its cheek instead. A few sparks flew out, and the zombie's cheek was cut open. What kind of zombie is this? Even the sword chi couldn't hurt it. Yi-chan clearly saw that when the sword chi cut the zombie's cheek, there was a green light, which blocked most of the attack power. Roar! The zombie felt dizzy after being hit by the sword chi. Without thinking, it opened its horrifying, stinky mouth and spat out a ball of green light towards Yi-chan. The wall was instantly corroded, and the smell of the green gas was nauseating. Yi-chan was forced out of the room and returned to the luxurious hall. He turned his head sideways and found that both Lin Yu and Yin Wuxia were there, and their opponents were zombies as well. What bad luck to actually encounter a martial zombie here. Lin Yu's sleeves were torn, and his clothes were a bit messy. Just now, when he walked into the coffin, he didn't find anything, so he directly opened the coffin lid. Unexpectedly, a zombie suddenly jumped out from the coffin, and its two arms nearly pierced through his chest. If he hadn't activated a defensive skill before, he would have been dead by now. Martial zombies? Yi-chan was a bit confused. Yin Wuxia explained, under special circumstances, a martial artist's Zhan Qi won't dissipate after he or she dies. Instead, it will mix with the corpse Qi, and after a long time the corpses of these martial artists will become immortal. However, if a living human comes to this place at this time, the rich Zhan Qi contained in these corpses will cause the corpses of these martial artists to change into martial zombies, and they will become bloodthirsty martial zombies. Martial zombies are extremely strong, and are almost invulnerable. In terms of physical strength, martial zombies are even more powerful than demonic beasts at the same level. If I'm not wrong, these three martial zombies used to be early clasping Yuan realm martial artists, and after they become martial zombies, they will become 5th grade martial zombies. However, they haven't been able to control the corpse Qi contained in their bodies yet. Lin Yu nodded and said, "It's said that the ghost artist, one of the 108 ghost warriors of the 9 evil cult, was a martial zombie. However, he was different from ordinary martial zombies, because of some special reasons. He regained his intelligence, and became even more cunning and insidious than human beings. What's more, as a martial zombie, he was able to turn living martial artists into martial zombies. According to him, those martial zombies were called elite corpses. From high to low, they were called iron plate corpses, bronze plate corpses, silver plate corpses, gold plate corpses, and so on." The ghost artist was a martial zombie? This was the first time for Yi-chan to hear about such a thing, but he had heard about bronze plate corpses. When he was helping the Ling family to complete a mission in the Red Blood Forest, he and his family ran into some ghost guards under the ghost artist's command. One of the ghost guards had even threatened to turn Yi-chan into a bronze plate corpse. Martial zombies are coming out, be careful, don't let them hurt you, or you'll be infected by the corpse poison. While speaking, Lin Yu's clothes fluttered in the air even though there was no wind. He abruptly launched a punch, and the fierce fist power transformed into a huge cauldron, pressing towards the martial zombie in the middle. Clang! The room-sized Zhanqi cauldron weighed over 1,000 kilograms, directly pressing the martial zombie into the ground. The martial zombie couldn't even crawl out for a short while, and could only let out shrill screams. Earth Devil's body-shattering cut. Yin Wuqing restrained his Zhanqi, formed a sawtooth-shaped, dark purple light ring on the edge of his palm. He moved as fast as a bolt of lightning, and fiercely hacked on the neck of the other martial zombie. This palm strike was way too sharp and powerful. It sent the martial zombie flying away, bumping against the wall. A wound was left on the neck, but no blood was spilled out. Oh! The last martial zombie bent its knees and sprung up, darting straight towards Yi-chan, who was holding the hidden cloud sword and standing motionlessly. I've been waiting for you, startling cloud. Yi-chan raised the hidden cloud sword high with his right hand and injected waves of Zhanqi into the sword. The strong sword aura released from the sword made the surrounding airflow spin at a high speed. Cut! Yi-chan swung the sword out. An incomparably thick stream of sword qi, which looked like a gigantic pair of scissors, sliced the air open and accurately hit the martial zombie from its chest to its neck. Puff! Iron-like minced meat flew in the air, and a bone-deep slash appeared on the martial zombie's chest. Its solid body was instantly lifted up from the ground and heavily smashed against a stone pillar. The stone pillar collapsed, and the martial zombie's body was pressed under a huge rock. The Zhanqi cauldron shook violently. Lin Yu gave a bitter smile and said, I can't. Although these few martial zombies can't control their corpse qi at will, their defensive power and strength are all at the same level as 5th-rank martial zombies. It's impossible to kill them within a short period of time. I can only barely push them back. Yin Wuqing said coldly, martial zombies are incredibly powerful. A 7th-rank martial zombie raised by our barbarian devil martial school once killed an early astral-reaching realm martial artist. Everyone knew that the barbarian devil martial school had been raising martial zombies, and Yin Wuqing wasn't afraid of the consequences. Not to mention that the comprehensive power of the barbarian devil martial school was even greater than that of the evil blood martial school. As one of the top rank 7 martial institutions, ordinary rank 7 martial institutions couldn't be compared with them. Looking at the martial zombie that crawled out from the pile of rocks, Yi-chan felt helpless for the first time. He hesitated whether he should use the heart refining or not, but after thinking for a while, he decided not to. This was not a life or death moment. There was no need for him to expose his most powerful martial skill. Not to mention that he was sure that Lin Yu and Yin Wuqing also had their most powerful martial skills that they hadn't used yet. Besides, even if he used the heart refining, he might not be able to kill the martial zombie, it would at most injure it severely. If he used the heart refining for a few more times, it would consume too much of his spiritual power, which was not wise. Explode! On the other side, Lin Yu couldn't suppress the martial zombie any longer. He made a prompt decision and cast a secret magic to explode his Zhanqi cauldron. The fierce airwaves generated by the explosion shook the entire hall. Fist-sized rocks fell down from the ceiling, and quite a few crystal lamps were extinguished. The martial zombie that had just crawled up from the ground couldn't help but be thrown into the air, landing beside the dead body of the martial artist. Crack! Crack! What happened next was shocking. The martial zombie tore off the arm of the dead martial artist, threw it into its mouth and started chewing. Blood splashed everywhere, and sharp teeth-grinding noises resounded through the entire hall. The other 2 martial zombies were also attracted by this. They grabbed a dead martial artist and started gnawing on it. Yin Wuqing's facial expression changed. Don't let them eat enough blood and meat. Once they have enough power, they will become real 5th-grade martial zombies, and they will be able to release their corpse qi to attack their enemies just like normal martial artists. Kill! While speaking, Yin Wuqing had already rushed over. Bean-sized, faintly discernible black scales emerged on his white skin, which looked even more terrifying than martial zombies. He looked just like a human-shaped killing machine. Bang! The martial zombie that was closest to Yin Wuqing was sent flying away once it touched Yin Wuqing's body. It was punched and kicked 4 times in the air, making it howl in pain. Dual cauldron competition. Lin Yu understood the severity of the situation. A cyan-yellow stream of Zhan Qi burst out from his body and rose into the air. He then clenched his fists and quickly closed them. Boom! The two room-sized cauldrons encircled the martial zombie, which had been happily eating, and fiercely clashed against each other. Waves of shockwaves spread out in all directions, tearing all surrounding corpses into pieces. Perhaps it had eaten quite a lot of corpses. A green stream of Zhan Qi burst out from this martial zombie's body, shielding it in the middle. Nevertheless, the two cauldrons clashed against each other, adding up and shaking each other, crazily damaging the martial zombie's body. In this case, I have no choice but to slowly wear down the martial zombie's defense. Although he couldn't use the heart refining, Yichun still had another sword move. This sword move might not be as powerful as the shocking cloud sword art, but after a long period of research he had found a new use for it. Therefore, he might as well try it on the martial zombie first. Thinking of this, the sharp aura released from Yichun's body grew stronger and stronger, along with a faint sense of mountain power. Taking a step forward, Yichun launched a seemingly slow but actually fast sword move. Mountain Condensed Sword Qi. Boom! Not only did the sword qi that was as thick as a mountain send the martial zombie flying, it even pinned it against the wall, unable to move. What was even more frightening was that the sword qi did not dissipate. Instead, it continued to grind against the martial zombie's chest, again and again, endlessly. What kind of sword move is this? Seeing the sword qi continuously wearing down the martial zombie's defense, Lin Yu couldn't help but gasp in shock. Wuxia also glanced at Yichun in surprise. Before, he had only acknowledged Yichun's power and didn't want to become enemies with him. But now, he truly didn't want to be enemies with Yichun anymore. He thought that Yichun had already exhausted all of his abilities, but unexpectedly, Yichun also had more powerful skills than them, and who knew whether he had more powerful skills or not. This man can't be underestimated. That was Wuxia's thought. The martial zombie struggled intensely, however. The mountain-heavy sword qi had disabled it from moving, and it could only let itself be slaughtered by Yichun. Chapter 146. Yichun, who had been maintaining the posture of wielding the sword, couldn't stand it any longer. This stream of sword qi was connected with his own Zhan qi, and every second he would consume a great amount of Zhan qi. Of course, if he and that martial zombie were the only ones here, he would be able to kill that martial zombie at one go. But sadly, he was not. He couldn't guarantee that no accidents would happen when he ran out of Zhan qi. Yichun took back the hidden cloud sword, and the mountain-like stream of sword qi finally disappeared. The martial zombie, which had been squeezed into the wall, was in an extremely miserable state. Its body was nearly cut into two by the sword qi, and its pitch-black internal organs and spine were clearly visible. Oh! The martial zombie let out a shrill roar, and streams of green airflow burst out from its pitch-black bones and muscles, trying its best to close and reconnect its broken chest. How can I let you get what you want? Yichun took out the iron spear from his back, then stomped his foot against the ground and darted out, transforming into a blood-red stream of light. Boom! The spear directly nailed on the broken chest of the martial zombie, and a raging flame instantly wrapped the martial zombie up, turning it into a human-shaped torch. Crackle! The flame seemed to have a restraining effect on the body of the martial zombie. As Yichun continued injecting his Zhan qi into the spear, the flame on the spear grew stronger and stronger, and the temperature grew higher and higher. Even the martial zombie's bones and muscles began to soften, like a candle, with sticky liquid dripping down from it. Yichun's eyes shone. Just now, he had been thinking that the flame might be able to restrain the martial zombie, but he didn't expect it to be so effective. It was even more effective than a full-strength sword attack of his. However, ordinary Zhan qi flame shouldn't be this powerful, most likely because the iron spear was a low-grade great treasure, and the flame power contained in it was even more powerful. Thinking of this, Yichun didn't have any other thoughts. He gripped the iron spear with both of his hands, and pinned the martial zombie against the wall. Oh! The martial zombie had already suffered a severe injury, and at the moment its body was burning with a raging flame. Instantly it howled like a wolf, and the sound waves spread out in all directions. Damn, martial zombies are afraid of fire, so that's why. Lin Yu pondered for a while, then took out a handful of orange-yellow explosive pills from his pocket. Explosive pills weren't very powerful. Even if the explosion range was very close, it could only injure an early clasping yuan realm martial artist, and couldn't kill him instantly. Compared to the silver light thunderbolt bomb and the red light fireball bomb, however, compared to the latter, explosive pills were the most commonly used weapons nowadays. The reason was simple. Explosive pills could be produced in small quantities, while the manufacturing methods of the silver light thunderbolt bomb and the red light fireball bomb had long been lost in history. The Sky Cloud Martial School had almost used up all the silver light thunderbolt bomb that Luo Hanshan had brought back last time, and they would never have another one in the future. Neither would they be able to produce another one, unless they could find an ancient ruin and find a silver light thunderbolt bomb. But of course, explosive pills weren't easy to find. Among the 9 nations, only a few institutions had the manufacturing methods of explosive pills, and the Dragon Tiger Martial School, where Lin Yu was from, was one of them. If the other institutions wanted explosive pills, they would have to buy them at a high price. As for robbing the manufacturing methods of explosive pills, they would rarely happen. After all, the Dragon Tiger Martial School was a mid-grade rank 7 institution. Even if a top-grade rank 7 institution wanted to rob them, they would have to prepare to die together with them. Otherwise, the other institutions would take advantage of the situation. However, a rank 6 institution wouldn't destroy a rank 7 institution just for the manufacturing methods of explosive pills. Perhaps they had even more powerful weapons. After all, the power of a rank 6 institution was beyond anyone's imagination. While the zombie was howling, Lin Yu reacted quickly and threw a handful of explosive pills towards it. The howling stopped abruptly. Except for a few explosive pills, most of the explosive pills were swallowed by the zombie. Bang, 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 bang. Almost instantaneously, a series of explosive sounds came from inside and outside the zombie's body. In the next moment, wisps of fiery light darted out from the zombie's eyes, nose, and mouth, along with puffs of smoke. Yin Wuxing paused for a second. He didn't have any fire attribute low-grade treasured weapon, neither did he have any explosive pills. It seemed that he could only rely on his physical strength to solve this problem. Without thinking too much, Yin Wuxing took out a pair of gloves made of black silk from his clothes, which were shining with a cold light. He put them on and activated his Zhanqi. Immediately, a curved dark purple Zhanqi blade emerged from the glove, sticking closely to the edge of his palm. This pair of gloves were low-grade treasured weapons given to him by their leader, the gold-splitting gloves. He rarely used them before, because he believed that his physical strength was more than enough. Earth Devil's body-shattering cut. Yin Wuxing moved as fast as a bolt of lightning and launched a hack on the zombie's neck. The cut on the zombie's neck had already healed a lot, leaving only a shallow cut on the zombie's neck. But now, the zombie's neck was sliced open by Lin Yu and Yin Wuxing. Lin Yu and Yin Wuxing's moves were seen by Yi Chan. He gave a faint smile and injected his Zhanqi into the iron spear, firmly suppressing the zombie. No matter how hard the zombie roared, it couldn't move even a little bit. A small half of its iron-hard bones and muscles had already melted, and the zombie had lost its human shape. Explode! The situation was already set. Yi Chan swallowed a Zhanqi replenishing pill, then flicked his wrist. Following his move, a raging flame burst out from the zombie's body. Clatter! The zombie's badly mutilated body fell on the ground and turned into a pile of melted meat. You two, I'll be going now. Yi Chan didn't have a close relationship with these two. Neither did he plan to explore the tomb together. Once he killed the zombie with a single spear attack, he immediately wanted to separate from them. Haha, this tomb is vast, it's better for us to separate. Lin Yu was about to kill the zombie for good. Hearing Yin Wuxing, he laughed out loud and didn't seem to care. Yin Wuxing didn't say anything. In fact, if he killed the zombie first, he would definitely make the same choice as Yi Chan. This tomb was vast, and there were many treasures in it. Alright, see you later. Flashing across the air, Yi Chan darted into one of the tunnels and disappeared. Lin Yu took back his sight and said to Yin Wuxing, "This year's Hidden Dragon ranking competition will probably have many changes. Yin Wuxing, your cultivation is a bit low. You'd better figure out a way to keep your position." The Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is one of the 4 great inherited ancient places in the South Shore region. The other 3 places are controlled by institutions from other countries. Once they are opened one by one, many people will break into the clasping Yuan realm. Wuxia said blandly. You're right, the hidden dragon ranking has its ups and downs. But this year is the most prosperous one. All kinds of powerful martial geniuses have gathered here, and without great abilities, no one can beat all of their peers. The tunnels in the tomb were connected to all directions. On the way, Wuxia saw many dead bodies of disciples from different institutions. Some of them had killed each other, some had their brains eaten by some unknown creatures, and some had been slapped on the walls and turned into a pile of bloody meat. The air was filled with a strong smell of blood. The Heavenly Dream Ancient region opens once every 10 years, and every time it opens, it's not only an opportunity, but also a fatal disaster. Before, at least half of the people could come out alive, but this time it's already not bad if only half of them can come out alive. No wonder people say that powerful martial artists walk on mountains of corpses and oceans of blood, and they've killed countless people. Wuxia sighed slightly. In this world that was filled with powerful martial artists, only by growing stronger step by step could one protect himself. Those ordinary people seemed to live a peaceful life, and stood aloof from worldly affairs, but when faced with natural disasters, how could they have the power to protect themselves? But of course, even without these reasons, Wuxia wouldn't want to live an ordinary life. The world of martial artists was just the tip of the iceberg, and he hadn't seen anything interesting yet. In his eyes, if he couldn't live a vigorous life, it would be such a pity. Besides, there was a famous saying in the world where he came from, live as a hero and die as a hero. No matter where he was, he had to live an exciting life. Unknowingly, Wuxia arrived in front of a huge tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, there was a stone gate, and on both sides of the gate stood two ferocious-looking stone beasts. The stone beasts' heads were flat, and there were two burning candles on their heads, releasing a faint fiery light. Taking a deep breath, Wuxia pulled out the hidden cloud sword and walked towards the gate step by step. Swoosh! Suddenly, a small black shadow darted out from a small hole on the side. It flashed a cold light, and attacked towards Wuxia's face. Die! Wuxia had a sharp sense of danger. He pierced the black shadow's head with his sword. Puff! The black shadow fell on the ground, let out a shrill scream and ran away. There are so many weird things in this tomb. Wuxia had already seen the black shadow's appearance clearly. It was a monkey-like, skinny, hairless monster. Wuxia's sword strike had only left a deep sword mark on the monster's face. It didn't kill it completely. After that, another 7 or 8 monkey-like monsters attacked Wuxia, but all of them were wounded and ran away. However, the strange screams they made before they ran away made the tunnel even weirder. When he was only 30 steps away from the gate, Wuxia stopped and swung his sword sideways. The sword chi, which was strong enough to make a candle flame lose its color, hit on the relief on the wall. Crack! The relief was shattered, and an even bigger monkey-like monster darted out. There was a deep sword mark on its chest. Demonic beast? Zombie? If Wuxia had guessed it right, both the monkey-like monsters from before and the one in front of him were zombies that had been sealed on the wall. Once they smelled the blood of a living person, they would break out of the wall and start eating human flesh. This monkey-like monster had a huge body. It was more than 3 meters tall. There was no hair on its body, and its skinny skin was as hard as iron. It was very hard for Sword Chi to kill it. Letting out a horrifying scream, the monkey-like monster attacked towards Wuxia with its claw. Puff! It was fast, but Wuxia was even faster. The iron spear on his back jumped out, and was grabbed by Wuxia, who then stabbed it into the monkey-like monster's open mouth. Explode! 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 The explosion was heard, and the monkey-like monster was pushed back. The skin on its face was melted by the red flame, and it could not fight back at all. Wuxia put more power into his arm, and pushed the monkey-like monster back into the wall with the iron spear, burning it alive. Seeing that the monkey-like monster was dead, Wuxia pulled out his iron spear and walked to the stone door. There was a handle mechanism next to the stone door. Wuxia grabbed the handle and pushed it down. Rumble! The stone door opened, and there was a secret room inside. There was a bookshelf on one side of the secret room, and there were a few secret manuals on the bookshelf. Wuxia walked straight to the bookshelf and picked up one of the manuals. Burning Sun Heart Ripping Claw, Low Rank Earth Realm Claw Art. Has the power to melt gold and iron. He picked up another one. Black Yin Finger, low-rank Earth Realm Finger Art. With one finger the enemy's blood will freeze, and their meridians will be damaged. Chapter 147. There were a total of 3 low-rank Earth Realm manuals and 5 top-rank Mortal Realm manuals. If he were to exchange them with the sect, it would be 9,250 low-rank Spirit Stones, which was almost equivalent to all of Yi Chen's Spirit Stone savings. It was undoubtedly a huge fortune. Putting away the manuals, Yi Chen looked around. On the other side of the wall there was a foot-long yellow gourd, tied with a red string. With a wave of his hand, the yellow gourd fell into Yi Chen's hand. He shook it, and a small friction sound came from the gourd. Pellet! Without thinking, Yi Chen opened the cork of the gourd. Instantly, a fragrant smell came into his nose. Pouring one into his hand, Yi Chen took a closer look. The pellet was the size of a pinky finger, and it was crystal clear with a hint of yellow. There was a faint glow on the surface, and the fragrance was even more intense. Just by taking a breath of the fragrance, the Zhen Qi in his body had improved. Although he could not recognize the name and function of the pellet, Yi Chen knew that it was definitely not an ordinary item. After putting away the manuals and the pellet, there was nothing else in the secret chamber. Yi Chen let out a breath and walked out. The tomb was unimaginably large. The passageways inside extended in all directions. It was impossible to tell how many forks there were. It was like a maze. At first he was curious, but as time went by, Yi Chen got tired of it. Anyone would be annoyed if they were to wander around in the winding tunnels. Plus, there were not as many treasures in this tomb as he had imagined. It was already commendable for Yi Chen to be able to find a secret chamber. After walking through a tunnel, a sword light suddenly shot out from the side. Courting death. Yi Chen did not even look at it as he twisted his sword back. Poochie! A martial disciple fell to the ground with his hands on his neck, his eyes wide open. Taking a low-rank Earth Realm manual from the disciple, Yi Chen smiled bitterly. This person should have been trapped in the tomb as well, and could not get out. Unfortunately, at this moment not only did he not find a way out, but he also killed people for their treasures. He deserved to die. On the other side of the tomb, rumble. A wall collapsed. Lin Yu growled in a low voice, "Damn it! Where the hell is the exit?" His luck wasn't as good as Yi Chen's. He only got 1 low-rank Earth Realm manual and 3 or 4 peak-rank Human Realm manuals from the disciples who were trapped in the tomb. He didn't get anything else. When he wanted to go out, he realized that he couldn't find the way back, and was completely trapped in the tomb. I don't believe there are many walls in front of me. When Lin Yu became determined, he didn't care about anything else and kept walking in a straight line. No matter how many walls there were, he would smash them down. Compared to Yi Chen and Lin Yu, Yin Wuxia seemed to be much calmer. He took out a small and delicate wooden mouse from his bosom, and embedded a low-grade spirit stone into its abdomen. Creak! The wooden mouse turned and ran in the other direction. Following closely behind the wooden mouse, Yin Wuxia quickly arrived at the intersection where he came from. There was also a wooden mouse. The 2 wooden mice were together. The Lufsic mice are indeed more clever than humans. Putting away the 2 wooden mice, Yin Wuxia walked into the giant whirlpool and disappeared. 2 hours had passed. Hard work paid off. Yi Chen finally found the exit. Although it wasn't the entrance where he came from, he didn't have the time to think about it. He stepped into the whirlpool. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Hearing the sound of wind, Yi Chen opened his eyes and saw nothing but emptiness around him. There seemed to be no end to it, and the misty clouds had gathered together. Lowering his head, he saw that the ground was getting bigger and bigger in his sight. He was in the air. This exit was indeed amazing. Activating the crane shadow steps, Yi Chen's body instantly became much lighter. He shook his arms and glided towards the highland far away. In front of the highland was a huge basin. In the middle of the basin, a fierce battle was taking place. 3 disciples were surrounding another disciple, and blood was spattering on the grassland. Yuan Hongkong, I've given you everything, don't go too far. The disciple who was being surrounded was wearing a blue robe. It was Lu Hanshan. The leading disciple laughed out proudly and said, "I want everything, I want to kill you as well. What can you do to me? You can only blame yourself for being too weak." You're just taking advantage of the fact that you're outnumbered. If you have the ability, fight me one-on-one. If I die, I'll deserve it. If you lose, I won't kill you. What do you think? Lu Hanshan's eyes were gloomy. He knew that the situation was not in his favor. If he tried to save face, he would only end up dead. The only thing he could do was to hope that his opponent would accept his challenge and have a fair fight with him, so that he could find an opportunity to escape. As for killing this guy, he had never thought about it. This guy was Yuan Henjing's blood brother, who was known as the Eagle Killer. Yuan Henjing had always been protective of his people. Not to mention his brother, even if you killed a dog or a chicken, he would still kill your whole family. Yuan Hengkong said scornfully, "Do you think I'm an idiot if I don't take advantage of you? Cut the crap, kill him." The three of them each launched their own attacks towards Lu Hanshan. East Rising Purple Qi, Great Monument Suppression. Facing three disciples who were just as powerful as him, Lu Hanshan boosted his Zhan Qi to its limit, drew a bridge-like stream of purple mist from the air, and boosted his power to a great extent. After that, he threw out a gigantic purple monument to protect himself. Bang! 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 The attacks launched by the three disciples were incomparably violent. The purple monument shook violently, and countless cracks appeared on it. Break. As a core disciple of the Sky Eagle Castle, which was a rank 7 institution, although Yuan Hengkong was not as powerful as his brother, he was definitely one of the most powerful martial artists under the clasping Yuan realm. He held a pair of purple golden hammers with both of his hands, and heavily smashed on the monument. Crack! The monument was shattered, and blood gushed out of the corner of Lu Hanshan's mouth. Die! Yuan Hengkong laughed out loud, while swinging his hammers towards Lu Hanshan's head. Piss off! Lu Hanshan's eyes popped out, and he threw a punch towards the purple golden hammers. Clang! Fire sparks flew in all directions, and a strong shockwave spread out, even leaving a deep layer of grass on the ground. Right at this moment, another disciple took the opportunity to sneak up behind Lu Hanshan, ripped his protective Zhan Qi apart, and pressed his palm on his back. Puff! Lu Hanshan let out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. He had suffered a serious internal injury. Let's see how you are going to take this. Yuan Hengkong's face twisted. He took a step forward and leapt high into the air, while his purple golden hammers burst out with a dazzling golden light, once again smashing towards Lu Hanshan. Puff! At this critical moment, a beam of sword qi darted over from afar, and hacked on Yuan Hengkong's purple golden hammers. The purple golden hammers flew out of Yuan Hengkong's hands, and Yuan Hengkong was greatly shocked. He stepped back once his feet landed on the ground, and regrouped with the other two disciples. Lu Hanshan turned around, and said in surprise, "Brother Yi." A disciple lightly landed beside Lu Hanshan, and that was indeed Yi Chan. He glanced at Lu Hanshan, who was badly injured, frowned and said, "Brother Luo, you are injured. Compared to my life, a little injury is nothing." Seeing Yi Chan, Lu Hanshan secretly let out a sigh of relief. If the two of them joined hands, their chances of survival would be greatly increased. At least they wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Not to mention that he didn't know how powerful Yi Chan was. He could sense that Yi Chen's aura of sharpness was even more powerful than before. He estimated that Yi Chan had already reached the level of the North Snow Fast Blade Lynch. Yuan Hengkong glanced at Yi Chan, and found that he was only at the late condensing reality realm. He grinned viciously and said, "Another one who wants to die. Just now you knocked away my purple golden hammers. I am going to smash your head, tear you into 5 pieces, and scatter them on this basin. Brother Yuan, he has a low-rank great weapon. Kill him and take it. Indeed, look at the bulging big bag around his waist. There must be a lot more treasures." Yuan Hengkong picked up the purple golden hammers from the ground and said, "What's the rush? In my eyes, this guy is already a dead man. As for treasures, I can share some with you." "Thank you, Brother Yuan." Yi Chan sneered and said, "If you can take one sword attack from me, I will spare your lives." Arrogant. How dare you? How dare you? We will kill you. The three of them showed an intense killing intent. They pushed their Zhan Qi to its limit and rushed towards Yi Chan. Cut! Taking a step forward with his left foot, Yi Chan swung his sword down. Puff! A thick stream of sword chi flashed across the waists of the 3 disciples, leaving a 10-meter-long and meter-deep sword mark on the grassland behind them. Grass chips and mud flew up into the air. In the next moment, the bodies of the 3 disciples were cut in half and scattered on the ground. What? He killed 3 disciples with 1 sword attack. Lu Hanshan was so excited that he started coughing. Although he knew that Yi Chan was very powerful, he didn't think that he could be this powerful. He had killed 3 disciples who were at the same level as him with 1 sword attack. This was not something that Lynch could compete with. Even 3 Lynches wouldn't be able to do this. However, Yi Chan hadn't even reached the clasping yuan realm yet. How could he be so powerful? No, that sword attack just now seemed to have absorbed all of my soul and spirit, as if it was the only thing left in the world. Could it be that Brother Yi Chan has already mastered the sword intent? The sword intent that all sword artists dream of? Brother Yi, was that the sword intent? Lu Hanshan hurriedly asked. Yi Chan nodded. It was indeed the sword intent. Haha, no wonder you could kill 3 people with 1 sword attack. A sword artist who has mastered the sword intent can challenge people who are at a higher level as easily as eating or drinking. This is not something that ordinary people can imagine. Lu Hanshan was very happy. He was the son of the leader of the Sky Cloud Martial School, and everything he did was for the development of the school. Now, a peerless genius had emerged in the school, which would definitely make the Sky Cloud Martial School even more powerful in the future. But you killed Yuan Hengying's brother. This is not a simple thing. After the joy, Lu Hanshan started to worry. Yuan Hengying, the killer eagle, was way more powerful than Yuan Hengkong. If he knew that Yi Chan had killed his brother, he would definitely chase after them at all costs. Although Yi Chan had mastered the sword intent and was able to kill any disciple under the clasping yuan realm within a second, and was extremely powerful, he might still not be able to rival Yuan Hengying. Yi Chan said, "There's no one here anyway. It's not a big deal to kill him." "You're right. Let's get out of here as soon as possible." Lu Hanshan didn't want to stay here any longer, because he didn't want others to see them together with Yuan Hengkong's dead body. Not long after the 2 of them left, a human silhouette walked out from behind a tree on the high ground in the distance. He chuckled and said, "If we run into Yuan Hengying, we can use this as a life-saving talisman and ask him to let us go." Chapter 148. In the lush forest, Luo Hanshan slowly let out a mouthful of foul air that contained a strong smell of blood, opened his eyes and said, "Internal injuries can't be healed within a short period of time. Fortunately, I've already recovered 70 to 80% of my power." Yi Chan said, "Don't worry, the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region has just started. We can wait for a few days. This time thanks to you, Brother Yi, otherwise I would have lost my life." Thinking about being surrounded and killed by those people, Luo Hanshan still had a lingering fear. Yi Chan smiled and said nothing. 5 days passed in a flash. During the day, the 2 of them would wander around, looking for treasures, and at night, Lu Hanshan would meditate to heal his wounds, while Yi Chan would absorb the yuan qi from spirit stones, trying his best to break through to the peak of the late condensing reality realm. Early in the morning, the 2 of them had just come out of their meditative state when a 7-colored light soared into the sky thousands of miles to the east. It connected the heavens and the earth, piercing through the blue dome of heaven. "The Heavenly Dream Battle Palace has opened," Luo Hanshan said in shock. Yi Chan nodded. The most important thing in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region was not those treasures, manuals or herbs, but the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace, which could help people break through to the next level. Normally, this mysterious palace would not show up, and would only open at a certain time. Some people speculated that only those with enough blood and qi could open the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace in advance, which was not completely unreasonable. Over 100 years ago, in order to avoid losing too many of their disciples, all of those institutions signed an agreement, which stated that disciples from those institutions were not allowed to kill each other in the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region, or else they would be severely punished. However, even after everyone had been sent out, the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace still hadn't appeared. "The Heavenly Dream Battle Palace has opened, Brother Luo. Let's go." "All right." The 2 of them activated their qinggong and flew towards the 7-colored light pillar. Once the colorful light beam appeared, All the disciples from all over the Heavenly Dream ancient region had seen it. Haha! The Heavenly Dream Battle Palace has finally opened. As long as you can get in, you will have a 10% chance of breaking into the Clasping Yuan realm. I have been stuck at the peak of late condensing reality realm for more than a year. This time I have to succeed. You guys are always going against me. Wait till I reach the Clasping Yuan realm, I will crush you all one by one. How arrogant! Just wait and see how I kill you in the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace. Whether they were exploring alone or fighting with others, most of the sect disciples put down what they were doing and rushed toward the 7-colored light pillar with all their might. The airflow was like a blade scraping over. Yi-chan and Luo Hanshan were like two gigantic birds, flying in the air at an extremely high speed. Occasionally they would land on top of a mountain. His ears twitching slightly, Yi-chan lowered his head and noticed the scene at the foot of the mountain. Beside the clear river, a young girl and a young man were confronting each other. The girl's forehead was covered in sweat, and there were dozens of sword marks on her clothes. The strength of these sword marks was just right, only tearing her clothes and not hurting her skin. Dozens of steps away, the young man was calm and unruffled. He held his sword in his hand and looked like he had the situation under his control. Little beauty, your qinggong isn't bad, but it's a pity that you've met me, young Master Chun. Surrender obediently. The young man was wearing bright green clothes, and his eyes were full of arrogance and lust. His pair of cunning eyes stared at the girl's exposed skin, and he licked his lips from time to time. The girl's face was as cold as ice and said, I can't believe that a disciple of a big martial institution like you would do such a despicable thing. Even if you die, I won't let you off easily. Haha, in front of me, even if you want to die, it won't be that easy. The young man grinned evilly, shook the sword in his hand and thrust it out. All of a sudden, the sword light was as bright as a spring breeze, so warm that people couldn't even raise their hands. When the girl realized what was going on, a sword had already been pressed against her neck, and that cold sword edge was only half an inch away from cutting her main artery. In the air, Luo Hanshan said to Yi-chan, this man is young Master Chun, the head disciple of the Sky Serpent Country's Rank 7 institution, the Zenith Dark Cult. He is rank 72nd in the Hidden Dragon ranking, and he likes women. God knows how many girls or female disciples from big families have been harmed by him. Only because his grandfather is the Zenith Dark Cult's head elder. He has been safe and sound all this time. Since he's a pervert, I'll just kill him. Yi-chan remained expressionless, pulled out his sword and launched a hack. Beside the river, when young Master Chun was about to move, he suddenly felt that his body had gone cold, and then he lost consciousness. The river behind him was suddenly cut off, and a tens of meters long deep sword mark appeared on the river. The girl sensed that something was wrong, so she activated her Zhenqi and leapt backwards. In the next moment, young Master Chun's body was cut in half from the middle. The cut was smooth and clean and blood splashed out. Was there someone just now? The girl raised her head confusedly, revealing a beautiful face. It was Ji Shuyan, a core disciple of the Emerald Martial Palace. In her sight, two silhouettes flashed past above her head, turning into tiny black dots within a blink of an eye. However, she soon recognized Yi-chan, because the sharp aura released from his body had become even sharper. Pursing her lips, Ji Shuyan had a complicated look on her face. She still remembered what she had said to Yi-chan a year ago. Dragons don't live with snakes, it's impossible for them to be together. But now it seemed that it was indeed true that dragons don't live with snakes, but their roles had been completely reversed. She was the snake, and Yi-chan was the real dragon, a real dragon that was showing its true power soaring in the sky. Thinking of this, Ji Shuyan bit her lips so hard that blood started flowing out. 1,000 miles might be a long distance for ordinary people, and it would take them 10 days to half a month to get there, but for late condensing reality realm warriors it would only take them half an hour. Stepping on the ground, Lu Hanshan raised his head and looked around, then said in shock, this colorful light beam has covered the entire lake with a radius of tens of miles. No wonder we can see it so clearly from thousands of miles away, as if it's right in front of our eyes. Yi-chan was also shocked. The colorful light beam had a diameter of tens of miles, and its height was immeasurable. It had already pierced through the sky and reached deep into the void. No one knew how far the colorful light beam had reached. It was as if the entire heavenly dream ancient region had been shrouded by this light beam. More and more disciples rushed over and gathered around the lake. The heavenly dream battle palace must be under the lake. Let's go down first. A core disciple from one of the institutions didn't change his direction and rushed into the colorful light beam. What happened next was horrifying. This colorful light beam was like a beam of light that could destroy the starry sky. Those disciples who had rushed into the light beam didn't even have the time to let out a scream before their bodies silently disintegrated and merged with the colorful light beam. Those who followed behind couldn't stop their bodies. Some had their arms disintegrated, some had their heads disintegrated, some had half of their bodies disintegrated, but not even a single drop of blood flowed out from the wounds. Divine light of extinction. This is the divine light of extinction. Someone yelled out. Hearing this, Lu Hansan frowned and said, "The divine light of extinction only exists in the top sky. I didn't expect that the heavenly dream ancient region would also have it. If it really is the divine light of extinction, even Sea of Souls realm warriors wouldn't be able to get through it. Only life and death realm warriors could rely on their defensive power to get in, but it would still be dangerous. Is this divine light of extinction really that powerful?" Yichun saw that the colorful light beam looked like a dream. He thought that it didn't have any destructive power. But now it seemed that the more beautiful something was, the more destructive it would be. Lu Hansan nodded and said, "There are many kinds of yuan qi in this world. Some yuan qi can combine in pairs and form a destructive qi. And if more yuan qi is combined, it can transform into a divine light. Some of these divine lights can heal wounds. Some can make people hundreds of times more energetic, and some can be even more powerful. For example, this divine light of extinction, anything that is shrouded by it will be turned into ashes, including souls, which will completely disappear from this world." While the two of them were talking, over 100 people had gathered around the lake, and the number was growing rapidly. Lu Hansan, "Brother Yi." Two silhouettes flew over. They were Zhu Mei and Su Jing. Yichun asked, "Eldest sister, senior sister Su, are you alright?" Zhu Mei grinned and said, "We're lucky. We met each other not long after we were teleported in. I'm a bit ashamed, but I think I should give up my position as the eldest sister. Junior sister Su Jing is even more powerful than I thought." Su Jing didn't say anything. Hidden dragon ranked martial artists are here as well. In Yichun's sight, Mo Wuxia, Yuan Henging, Hong Qianjun, Wei Dongxi and the other hidden dragon ranked martial artists had all arrived. "Disciples of our evil blood martial school, come here. Disciples of the Sky Eagle Castle Martial School, what are you waiting for? Disciples of the Multiple Mountain Martial School, gather. Disciples of the Cyan Bamboo Martial School." As early clasping Yuan realm martial artists, the few of them gathered their disciples once they arrived. After that, all the other hidden dragon ranked martial artists followed suit. Not far behind Yichun, Jishuan had just arrived. She glanced at Yichun's back with a complicated look, then walked towards young Master Emerald, Zhuang Fei. Another half an hour later, the number of people standing around the lake had reached over 400. Except for one or two people who occasionally arrived, almost all of them had arrived. There were over 600 people when we came in, but now only around 400 are left. Those who died were all the best disciples of their institutions. Luo Hanshan sighed. Zhu Mei said happily, "Our Sky Cloud Martial School is still okay. All 4 of us are still here. You see, some of our institutions have all lost their disciples, none of them survived, and some of our institutions only have 1 disciple left. A general success is built on thousands of bones." Yichun murmured in his head. Another half an hour later, no one else arrived. At this moment, the eagle killer Yun Henging suddenly growled out, "Where is my brother Yuan Hengkong? Why isn't he here yet? Have any of you seen him? Have you seen my brother Yuan Hengkong? Tell me." Randomly grabbing a disciple who didn't even dare to look at him, Yuan Hengying's voice was filled with a strong killing intent. "I don't know." That disciple's teeth were chattering. "If you don't know, why should I keep you alive?" Puff! That disciple's head was twisted off. He died an innocent death. "Yichun, don't give yourself away." Seeing this horrible scene, Luo Hanshan's heart suddenly tightened. He sent a message to Yichun with his Zhen Qi. Yichun responded blandly, "Brother Luo, don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Beside him, Zhu Mei said in a low voice, This guy has gone too far. How can he kill people for no reason? Does he think he can do whatever he wants just because he is powerful? Luo Hanshan gave a bitter smile. Zhu Mei was slightly more powerful than him, but she was a bit too soft. Yuan Hengying didn't go to the places where there were powerful hidden dragon-ranked martial artists. Instead, he went to the places where there were no powerful hidden dragon-ranked martial artists. At this moment, he had killed another disciple and was walking towards the Sky Cloud Martial School. Have you seen my brother Yuan Hengkong? With blood-red eyes, Yuan Hengying glanced at the four of them and said in a cold voice. Yi Chen didn't move at all. Sorry, I have never seen him. Kid, how dare you? You can even stay so calm in front of me. Seems that you are the most suspicious one. Tell me the truth. Yuan Hengying approached Yi Chen step by step. What a joke. If you haven't seen him, then you haven't. What are you going to do? A killing intent flashed across Yi Chen's eyes. He was ready for a bloody fight. Chapter 149. Junior brother Yi, don't be impulsive. However, if this Yuan Hengying is too aggressive, let's attack together. While talking to Yi Chen with his Zhenqi, Luo Hanshan had also informed Zhu Mei and Su Jing, telling them to prepare for a bloody fight. At the same time, he had made up his mind that he would make Yuan Hengying bleed, even if he had to give up his own life. Zhu Mei and Su Jing silently nodded. Their Zhenqi was ready to burst out. As soon as Yuan Hengying made his move, they would launch a thunderous attack. The scene was deathly silent, and a tragic atmosphere spread out. Wuxia and the other hidden dragon rank warriors watched this scene with interest. Compared to the other martial institutions, although the Sky Cloud Martial School was relatively weak, they were quite united. It seemed like they were ready to risk their lives to fight against Yuan Hengying. Unfortunately, sometimes risking one's life did not mean it would be useful. In front of absolute power, everything else was useless. Lu Wuxiang and Ji Shuyan looked at Zhuang Fei with pity. Zhuang Fei said blandly, "The Heavenly Dream Ancient Region is a man-eating place. Just protect yourself, don't worry about anything else." Eldest senior brother is right. Other people's business has nothing to do with us. They deserve to die. Challenging Yuan Hengying, courting death. The other core disciples of the Emerald Martial Palace were gloating. In the direction of the Purple Sun Martial School, Ouyang Ming said excitedly, "Cousin, it seems like we don't need to do anything to those people from the Sky Cloud Martial School. Yuan Hengying will be able to kill them." Ouyang Lai said, "They are destined to die. But that's good, we don't have to think about how to kill them. And we can focus on entering the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace. When the Heavenly Dream Ancient Region closes and everyone gets out, those old guys from the Sky Cloud Martial School will definitely have a very interesting look on their faces." The others also began to discuss spiritedly. These four are dead for sure. Who doesn't know that the Eagle Killer has always been ruthless? Originally, only one needed to die. The other three were too impulsive. Let's hope that Killer Eagle doesn't come after us after killing them. Why don't we leave this place first and come back after the seven-colored pillar of light dissipates? Junior brother, do we not want to die even if you want to? It would be strange if the Killer Eagle didn't kill us after seeing us run. The discussions of the crowd didn't distract Yi Chen. His eyes were sharp, and the sharp aura on his body had been accumulated to the peak, fusing with his sword intent. You have guts, you really do have guts. But being gutsy is not a good thing. Today you will all die. Yuan Hengying will never leave anyone alive. Chirp! Yuan Hengying's body shook. The dark cyan Zhenqi around his body turned into a soaring eagle. The eagle let out a long cry. Its murderous aura spread out in all directions. The air rippled like water, it was extremely sticky. Look, Yuan Hengying is going to make his move. That kid seems to be about to use a killer move as well. Everyone was surprised. In their line of sight, Yi Chen's right hand was placed on the hilt of his sword. The sword was not out of its sheath, but its sharpness was already apparent. The surrounding grass and trees were cut in half, as if they had been injured by the invisible sword qi. Grinning viciously, Yuan Hengying was about to launch his attack. The Zhenqi eagle around his body was ready to pounce, but right at that moment, the colorful light column changed. The tens of miles thick colorful light column quickly became thinner, and within 2 blinks of an eye, it had already shrunk to 100 meters thick, standing in the middle of the lake. The divine light of extinction has disappeared. Let's go. Some of the disciples couldn't wait any longer. They rushed out like an arrow, leapt high into the air, and dived into the lake like shuttles. The others saw that there was no danger this time, so they all jumped into the water without hesitation. Splash, 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 splash. The sound of jumping into the water could be heard continuously. Within a blink of an eye, only tens of disciples were left standing by the lake. Let's go down. On the other side, Zhuangfei had also jumped into the water with his Emerald Martial Palace's disciples. Yuan Hengying's facial expression changed a few times. At the moment he had two choices. One was to let go of Yi Chan and his friends and dive into the water right away, and the other was to kill them and then dive into the water. The latter might take some time because the sharp aura released from Yi Chen's body was extremely sharp. It was not realistic to kill him and his friends within 1 or 2 moves. You're lucky. I hope that you won't run into me in the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace, HM. After thinking for a while, Yuan Hengying decided to choose the first option. The Heavenly Dream Battle Palace was extremely mysterious. He was afraid that he might miss the right time and cause a lot of changes. Turning around, Yuan Hengying dived straight into the lake without dispelling his Zhanqi eagle. Standing on the lake, the few disciples slightly let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, this colorful light column disappeared in time. Lu Hanshan's clothes were soaked in cold sweat. He raised his head and looked at the empty lake. Zhu Mei nodded and said, although Yuan Hengying's character is not good, but undoubtedly, he is extremely powerful, especially that fierce aura of killing tens of thousands of people. It makes people feel like they have arrived in hell, and there are mountains of corpses and oceans of blood everywhere. Let's go. Among the 4 of them, the calmest one was without a doubt Yi Chan. Just now, he had already prepared himself for a bloody battle. Of course, in terms of power, he was still much weaker than Yuan Hengying. He was only as powerful as Lin Yu, who was ranked 70th in the last Hidden Dragon ranking. If he used the heart refining, he might be able to barely win against Lin Yu. However, Yuan Hengying was not Lin Yu. He was at least 30% more powerful than Lin Yu, and was ranked 59th in the last Hidden Dragon ranking. With only his late condensing reality realm cultivation and sword intent, it would be very difficult for Yi Chan to defeat Yuan Hengying. Therefore, if this battle started, there would only be 2 outcomes. One, Yi Chan would die and Yuan Hengying would be severely wounded. The other, they would all die together and there would be no winner. No matter which one it was, Yi Chan would not like either one. Splash! 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 Water splashed everywhere. The 4 of them dove into the bottom of the lake, leaving only the empty lakeside. Such a huge pressure. Once they dove into the water, the 4 of them felt that their protective Zhanqi had tightened and was about to collapse. Yi Chan activated his soul power and spread it out. He found that the water in the lake was not transparent. It was mixed with a 7-colored color, as if it was made of a 7-colored crystal, and its density was higher than that of water. This is not ordinary water. Everyone be careful. Yi Chan reminded them. As they dove deeper and deeper, the pressure of the lake water increased as well. When they reached 100 meters deep, the protective layer of Zhanqi, which was 3 feet away from their skin, had shrunk by a large margin, and was now only 2 feet away from their skin. Apart from this, the great pressure had also brought a great resistance, and their diving speed had been slowed down to an extremely low level. Suddenly, blood surged up from the bottom of the lake. Is there a fight going on down there? The Heavenly Dream Battle Palace is not far away from here. Why would they waste their time on a fight? Yi Chen frowned. He felt that something was wrong. Crack. Silently, Yi Chen's protective layer of Zhanqi was bitten through by something, and the water gushed in, sending him flying tens of meters away. Brother Yi. Lu Hanshan clearly saw that it was a weird-looking fish that had bitten through Yi Chen's protective layer of Zhanqi. The fish's body was as thin as a shuttle, about 5 feet long, and its mouth was filled with sawtooth-like teeth, shining with a cold light. The weird fish was way too fast. Yi Chen's protective layer of Zhanqi had already been bitten through by Lu Hanshan. It was impossible for Lu Hanshan to defend himself. Boom! Su Jing was the first one to launch the attack. A pair of fiery light rings condensed behind her head, which were still shining brightly even in the water, and boosted her power. She threw a punch on the weird fish's abdomen. Large amounts of blood gushed out of the weird fish's mouth, It swam for tens of meters and stopped moving. Tens of meters away, Yi-chan was trying his best to control his boiling blood. He was secretly shocked. This fish's teeth are way too sharp. His protective layer of Zhanqi didn't even work. It was broken by a single bite. Fortunately, he had cultivated his body to the golden jade body, so not even a piece of his flesh was torn off. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so easily injured. Swiftly swimming over, Yi-chan said, "I'm fine." Lu Hanshan's face darkened and said, "If I'm not wrong, these weird fishes are ancient piranhas. Their sharp teeth can bite through most metals. They are 10 times more powerful than the piranhas of today." Zhu Mei said, "Brother Yi, the martial art you have been practicing is way too low level. I'm afraid that you won't be able to defend yourself against the attacks of these ancient piranhas. Why don't you come with us?" "Indeed, we have all been practicing low-rank Earth Realm martial arts. It's more than enough to defend against 2 to 3 ancient piranhas." Lu Hanshan didn't realize until now that Yi-chan had been practicing a top-rank mortal realm martial art, the pure Jun Zhanqi. In terms of attacking power, it might not be any weaker than low-rank Earth Realm martial arts, but in terms of defensive power it was much weaker. Yi-chen's Zhanqi was also not as rich as theirs. He was the weakest one among all of them. Yi-chan shook his head and said, "Just now, I was distracted by the blood and water down there. I didn't notice the ancient piranha's sneak attack. I'll be more careful from now on." After having suffered a great loss this time, Yi-chan didn't dare to be careless anymore. He spread his soul power to cover a radius of tens of meters. Once there was any movement, he would be able to sense it. The 4 of them kept diving down. As the water pressure increased, more and more ancient piranhas appeared. At the beginning there were only 1 or 2 of them, but now there were small groups of piranhas. Cut! As if he had eyes on his back, Yi-chan turned around and threw out a sword attack. Puff! The water was cut open, and the thick sword chi flashed across the air. The next moment, a small group of ancient piranhas were cut in half, and the blood spread everywhere, making it impossible to see anything. Further down there, a conspiracy was taking place. "You guys want to die. How dare you stop me?" Hong Qianjun, who was ranked 69th in the last hidden dragon rank, showed a strong killing intent in his eyes. His voice spread out along with his Zhanqi. Ouyang Ming swallowed his saliva and said, "Hong Qianjun, one of the inner elders of our Purple Sun Martial School, is a member of your Hong family's branch. This time we want to talk business with you." Hong Qianjun's killing intent didn't decrease. He said coldly, "What business? Kill a man for us. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? You want me to kill someone for you? Believe it or not, I will kill you right now." Hong Qianjun's words were 30% true and 70% false. He just wanted to scare them and make them bleed more. As for killing someone, it was a simple thing and he didn't mind spending a little bit of time on it. However, it depended on whether he was satisfied with the reward. The eldest disciple of the Purple Sun Martial School, Ouyang Lai, said blandly, "After this is done, I'll give you 50,000 low-rank spirit stones." "Huh, you think I'm a beggar? 100,000 for killing someone, and 20,000 for wasting my time. Not a single one less or I will kill you right now." "All right, as you wish." Ouyang Ming's heart was bleeding. 120,000 low-grade spirit stones were equivalent to 48 million taels of gold. If he had a choice, he would rather give 80 million taels of gold to the elder because only a small number of low-grade spirit stones could be auctioned in the auction. This time, the inner sect elder promised him 100,000 low-grade spirit stones, and the remaining 20,000 would have to be paid by him and his cousin. He kill who? Also, I'm warning you, don't go back on your word. We, the Multiple Mountain Martial School, will never suffer losses. Ouyang Ming said coldly, "Yi-chan." Chapter 150. The bottom of the lake was immeasurably deep. The first batch of disciples had already dived hundreds of meters, and their protective Zhanqi had been compressed to a foot away from their skin. But that was not all. They were surrounded by horrifying ancient piranhas. These piranhas had formed groups and were specifically attacking the disciples who were alone. Those with strong protective Zhanqi could hold on for a while, but those with weak Zhanqi would be completely devoured after 2 or 3 attacks. Not even bones would be left. It was a bloody scene. Head disciple sister, second disciple brother. Luckily we have your sky holy water spell to protect us. Not all of the disciples from the Rudra martial school were facing the attacks of the ancient piranhas. The 5 disciples from the Rudra martial school were wrapped in a cone-shaped water shield. The water shield was as thick as a fist, and the water surface was rotating at a speed invisible to the naked eye, like a drill. Those 5-feet-long piranhas were thrown away once they touched the water shield, and couldn't even get close to them. Although the 10-feet-long giant piranhas were not thrown away, the water shield was unimaginably hard, and they couldn't bite through it. After a while, their gums started to bleed because of the rotating water. Nangong Yun put both of her hands on the inner wall of the water shield and said, "I can't defend against the ancient piranhas alone. Only with Sister Qin and I, we have such an effect." Yuan Shuamei smiled and said, "Training the sky holy water spell, 1 drop of zhanqi is more than 100 pounds. This water shield is mixed with normal water, and it already has such a strong defense. If it was all made with zhanqi, it would be more than 10 times stronger. It's not that easy. The zhanqi from the sky holy water spell is very little, and we need to mix it with water yuan qi during normal battles, not to mention such a huge defensive shield." On the other side, a girl in cyan clothes also put both of her hands on the inner wall of the water shield. She shook her head and smiled bitterly. While they were talking, the water shield was like a spiral drill, and it dived another 200 to 300 meters. Great monument suppression. 10 miles fragrance. All demons fall. Under the water, there was a turbulent undercurrent. A 10 meters tall monument made of zhanqi fell down and landed in the middle of the ancient piranhas. The shockwave spread out and killed a large group of them. After that, faintly discernible sword light sprinkled out like 100 flowers blooming, and also like a fragrance wafting for 10 miles. It enveloped all the ancient piranhas in front of it and started to kill them endlessly. In the end, it formed a huge flower of blood mist. The sword light dimmed, and a resplendent golden light shone, spreading out in a fan shape. It contained countless fist shadows, and every punch had the power of 1,000 caddies. Wherever it went, the water would explode and whirlpools would appear. The man-eating fish were dizzy and unable to move, and were beaten to death. "This won't do. There are too many piranhas. I can only kill about 10 of them with a full power attack. I can't kill them all," Luo Hansan said to the other 3 through his zhanqi. Su Jing rarely spoke. "Don't get entangled. Dive with all your might. Senior Sister Su is right. Continuing to fight is just a waste of time. Everyone, try your best to go down as fast as possible. I'll stay behind." Brandishing his sword and killing one piranha after another, Yichun felt that his innate qi was being consumed rapidly. He had already used up a third of it. "How can we do that?" Zhu Mei disagreed. Luo Hansan understood what Yichun meant. He turned to Zhu Mei and said, "Don't underestimate Brother Yi. He is the most powerful one among us. He can easily kill Ouyang Ming." "Really?" Zhu Mei didn't believe it. She hesitated for a second, then decided to follow the plan. Together with Luo Hansan and Su Jing, Zhu Mei dived down with all their strength. However, she had made up her mind that once Yichun was in danger, she would come back immediately. Swallowing a pill that could help him recover his zhanqi, Yichun activated his sword intent and slashed out with his sword. Whirlwind and clouds. In the blink of an eye, the violent sword qi shot out, rising straight up in a spiral shape. In the next moment, a huge waterspout was formed in the water. The waterspout was filled with incomparably sharp sword qi, constantly killing the piranhas nearby or far away. Poochie, 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 poochie. After this sword move, Yichun's zhanqi dropped by a small half again. He couldn't help but smile bitterly, and thought to himself, "It seems that I have to find a low-rank Earth Realm martial art to cultivate when I get back. Otherwise, with my current zhanqi, I won't be able to use the shocking cloud sword art as much as I want." Down below, Zhu Mei turned around and saw what had happened. She said in shock, "How come Brother Yi is so powerful? I felt that every single beam of sword qi in that waterspout could injure me badly." "You might not believe it, but Brother Yi has already mastered the sword intent, and he can easily kill other martial artists at the same level as him. I saw him kill 3 disciples who were no weaker than me with only one sword move, and they couldn't even fight back at all," Luo Hansan said with a big smile. Zhu Mei's eyes popped out. "He has mastered the sword intent? No wonder he is so powerful." Before Xue Wuren, the leader of the Northern Snow Martial Academy, had mastered the blade intent, he was only as powerful as an inner elder, and his talent was just average as well. However, once he mastered the blade intent, his power skyrocketed, and he could even compete with Zhuang Qingxian, the leader of the Emerald Martial Palace. Until now, no one has ever seen him use all of his power. Soon Yichun caught up with them. However, right at this moment the water started vibrating intensely. A tens of meters long gigantic Zhanqi palm, which was emitting a khaki-yellow light, shrouded the four of them. Yichun's eyes shone with an intense killing intent. He launched a boundless cloud attack. Rumble! Once the gigantic sword qi touched the gigantic Zhanqi palm, it was as if tens of bombs had been detonated under the water. Luo Hanshan, Zhu Mei, and Zhu Mei were sent flying by the shockwave. Their qi and blood started boiling, and they almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Hong Qianjun. Luo Hanshan's pupils contracted. He noticed a tall and sturdy silhouette in the water. That silhouette's muscles were as strong as those of a human ape, just like Lin Yu's. Haha, so you are the disciples of the Sky Cloud Martial School. Hong Qianjun had launched this palm attack from far away. He didn't see who had blocked it, so he thought that it was the combined power of the four of them. Thinking like this, he didn't care about it at all. There were many obstacles in the water, therefore when he launched that palm attack, he only had 70 to 80% of his power left. Zhu Mei frowned and asked, "Why did you attack us?" Hong Qianjun curled his lips and said, "You're not very popular. Someone even offered a large amount of low-grade spirit stones to buy your lives." "Buy our lives? Yuan Hengying? Impossible, he's a hidden dragon-ranked martial artist. How could he let others take advantage of him? But besides him, who else would want to offend our Sky Cloud Martial School? Could it be the Purple Sun Martial School?" Yeah, the Purple Sun Martial School and our Sky Cloud Martial School are mortal enemies. Now that they've seen the rise of our junior brother Yi, they won't give up. Hong Qianjun, let's get straight to the point. It's the Purple Sun Martial School's people who want our lives. Hong Qianjun shook his head and said, "I don't care about that, what I want to do is to kill you. But now I can give you a chance. Among the four of you, only one can survive. In other words, the other three can either kill themselves or be killed by me, and the last one should run." Yichun said blandly, "You think you've got us? Who the hell do you think you are? Among the four of us, you'll definitely die." Hong Qianjuan's body was surrounded by a layer of yellow light, which made it impossible for the piranhas to bite through it. Yichun said slowly, "Today you'll also die." The blue veins on Hong Qianjuan's forehead suddenly bulged. He said in a hideous voice, "You're just like a dog, how dare you yell in front of me? Just wait until I break all of your bones and make you beg for death. I'll see if you can still talk back then." Hundreds of meters away, Ouyang Lai and Ouyang Ming were standing side by side, talking while killing the piranhas nearby. "Cousin, do you think this Hong Qianjun can kill them? Why do I have a bad feeling about this?" Lightning flashed, and 4 piranhas were burnt black by the lightning. Rushing Thunderhand, Ouyang Lai snorted and said, "Hong Qianjun is ranked 69th in the Hidden Dragon ranking. He was only at the peak of the late condensing reality realm, but he was already able to easily kill disciples at the same level as him. Now that he has stepped into the clasping Yuan realm, how could he not be able to kill these 4? "You're right." Ouyang Ming nodded. Earlier on the lakeside, when Yuan Hengying was about to kill Yichun and the other 3, the 7-colored light column suddenly disappeared, which ruined their plan. The more they thought about it, the more worried they became. After entering the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace, there was a 10% chance for them to step into the clasping Yuan realm. If they didn't step into the clasping Yuan realm, it would be fine, but once they stepped into the clasping Yuan realm, it would be very difficult for them to kill them. After all, they wouldn't have the chance forever. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound. Both of them spent a large amount of low-grade spirit stones to invite Hong Qianjun to help them kill Yichun and the other 3, and kill them under the water. When they're dying, we can go up and finish them off. Ouyang Lai's nickname was Rushing Thunder Hand, but his temperament was even gloomier than Ouyang Ming's. He was extremely cruel. That would be great. Once Hong Qianjun said those words, he sensed the sword qi coming right at his face, and the yellow-colored light column seemed to collapse. At the same time, Yi Chen's voice came. "You could have gone to the Heavenly Dream Battle Palace safely, and nothing would have happened. You might have even improved your cultivation, But you're digging your own grave, don't blame me. I'd like to see who will end up like a dead dog. When he was confronting Yuan Hengying, Yi Chun didn't have the chance to launch the first attack, because he didn't have the confidence to kill Yuan Hengying. Unfortunately, Hong Qianjun wasn't Yuan Hengying. He was only as powerful as Lin Yu. Although it would be a bit difficult to kill him, it wasn't impossible. Once he launched the attack, Yi Chun activated his sword intent with all of his power and launched the shocking cloud sword art. The thick sword chi contained an inexhaustible explosive power. Wherever it reached, the water would be cut open and the water behind it would explode, pushing the sword chi forward at an even faster speed. Sword intent. Hong Qianjuan's face turned pale with fright. The sword intent had always been difficult to learn, and Yi Chun was only a late condensing reality realm martial artist. How could he have learned the sword intent? Hong Qianjun was slightly stunned. Then his face turned fierce. He knew that he couldn't let this man live, otherwise, he would become a great threat in the future, and he had to kill him as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Hong Qianjun let out a great shout, and the yellow-colored light column around his body suddenly expanded, locking the space around him. Mountain-shattering stamp. Hong Qianjun locked his fingers together and launched a palm attack. Buzz! The speed of the sword chi was very fast. However, as soon as it entered the earthen yellow halo, its speed plummeted, as if there was an endless obstacle. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, a round of earthen yellow palm prints broke through the water flow and heavily struck the sword chi. Crack! The sword chi was shattered, and the remaining sword chi was twisted by the yellow-colored light column, then disappeared. However, Hong Qianjun had underestimated the power of the sword chi, and one of his sleeves was cut off.